Thank you, ladies and gentlemen, for clicking on this Rank the Movies video. The setup's a little different this week because I'm going to be displaying stuff on this part of the screen. So it's kind of like more how when I used to do my live streams versus my normal videos, but I think this is going to work a lot better for this week and next week because this week I am talking about my top 10 least favorite movies that came out in 2021. Of course, this is movies I had to have actually went to see or saw through streaming or bought a copy of it and watched it or rented a copy. Not that I do a lot of renting, but that might be an option as well. So it'll only cover those movies. So if I haven't seen it, it can't be on this list. Next week will be the top 10 best movies of 2021. So I'm going to do the worst and then I'm going to do the best. I was considering breaking up and doing 5 worst, 5 best, 5 worst, 5 best. Then I decided, screw it, just do them both, one felt swoop. Now to kind of show you what I'm all working with here, I'm going to show you, this is what didn't make either list that I saw this year, new movies I saw in 2021 that made neither list. That includes Godzilla vs. Kong, Nobody, Wrath of Man, Spiral, Army of the Dead, The Hitman's Wife's Bodyguard, The Forever Purge, Black Widow, Old, G.I. Joe Origins Snake Eyes, Candyman, Shang-Chi and the Legend of the Ten Rings, Cop Shop, Resident Evil, Welcome to Raccoon City. For streaming, it's Wrong Turn, Justice League, The Tomorrow War, The Fear Street Trilogy, Halloween Kills, and 8-Bit Christmas. Those are the movies that made neither list. They are the middle of the pack because they're not the best and they're not the worst. So as I'm getting into the worst, some of these movies just made it because, well, I'm flushing out a list of 10 movies here. And those movies that I just showed, I liked better than these. So let's get right into it with number 10, and that is In the Heights. I watched this one off of HBO Max. You can see another review of it through my live streams that I did. The first 10 movie, or first 8, I forget how many it was, of 2021 of live stream, or of, not live stream, of streaming. And it was on there. And honestly, I think it could have been better. I don't think the music was there. I think the story was a little weirdly plotted out. Like, I've never seen the stage version, so I don't know. It could have been an incredibly faithful stage version. It could have been an incredibly faithful version, but because I've never seen the comparison, it's hard to go, oh, that was very faithful. And if it is very faithful, I probably wouldn't like the stage version that much either. The music wasn't all that catchy. It wasn't that interesting. Again, I think the characters were incredibly underdeveloped. Even our 4 main characters, who are visualed on the poster over there, I don't think they were that interesting of characters. I don't think their stories were that interesting. When they started dancing on the building at the end of the movie, that lost it for me because this movie didn't have that weird physics break anywhere else. Like, nobody did other weird physics things until that moment, and then it's like, why? Why are we doing this? Why is this happening at the end of the movie? For a movie I was already not fully sold on for the 2 hours it took to get there, because I think it's like it was 2.5 hours or something. All of those reasons, In the Height took the number 10 spot, which means it's not the worst movie I saw this year. It's just not that good. The number 9 is No Sudden Move, kind of like In the Heights. I watched this one off of HBO Max on July 1st, I'm pretty sure, when it started streaming. I was excited for this movie when I see who's in it, because you got like Don Cheadle, Brendan Fraser, Benicio del Toro, John Hamm is in it, Ray Liotta. Um, so it's got a good cast. It's got a really good cast. And again, this is a pretty average movie. Like, honestly, this one and In the Heights kind of fought for the 10 and 9 spot just because overall, I think the movies I didn't put into these spots were just slightly better movies. And this one's kind of forgettable. Like, even now, sitting here 6 months later, I don't remember that much from this movie other than it had weird panoramic, like it was almost shot with a cell phone camera, and I think it was. The acting was fine. Like, nobody really stood out, but nobody really like did a bad performance. Even trying to remember the basic plot, I got images of it, but I'm pretty sure Don Cheadle and Benicio del Toro are hired to keep a family occupied while a third member, Karen Culkin, takes I can't remember. Oh, what's the actor's name? It's not John Hamm. John Hamm comes in later. He looks a lot like John Hamm though. From Stranger Things, that sure from Stranger Things, to go get automotive plans and yeah, it's a weird movie. Um, it wasn't bad. It's not memorable. I don't remember it, and I don't feel like I want to watch it again. So that's why I made this list. And in the number 9 spot, number 8, we've got The House Next Door, Meet the Blacks 2. Wasn't a good movie, and I saw it for weird reasons because I didn't care for the first one. I had heard it hyped on a different YouTube channel, and I decided to go see it. I decided to go check it out because you got Cat Williams playing a vampire, and maybe it was about as bad as I expected it to be as part of The House Next Door as a sequel to Meet the Blacks. It was about as bad as I expected it to be. There's a reason nobody this movie's already forgotten in the landscape of 2021 movies. It just wasn't that memorable. It wasn't that interesting, but again, that's what this list is. This is the worst movies I've watched, and that doesn't mean I have to have a huge rant about how bad they are. It just means I didn't like them as much as the other movies I saw. Eventually, we'll get to Ranty Bad. At number 7 is Coming to America. This is the sequel to the Eddie Murphy classic Coming to America. It just came out way too late. I feel like too much time had passed. Why do we need a sequel? 20 something years after the original. James Earl Jones is kind of in this movie, but I'm just not really. Um, yeah, it is, it's again, Eddie Murphy finds out he fathered a son when he was in America because of drugs. Rapey a little, not really, but still, whatever. And so he goes to get his son because that is his firstborn child and therefore is his heir, even though he's got 3 daughters with his actual love interest from the first movie, any of whom could be the heir. But no, no, no. Male politics say it has to be a male heir and a woman can't run the kingdom, even though by the end of the movie, his eldest daughter is running the kingdom. Because that's just like this movie was totally like, it's not bad. It's just unnecessary. It was unnecessary, and it didn't like endear itself to me as much as the first one has in its lifespan. I don't think it's one that you need. Like if I rewatch Coming to America, the original, I don't think I'm gonna sit there and go, oh, I gotta watch the sequel now. I gotta see what happens 20 years after this story. No, I don't. I don't, and neither do you. Neither did anyone really. Next up on our list is the newest movie to make my worst list of this year, and that is, of course, as you can see, The King's Man. I was super excited for this, and the fact that it didn't do worse on this list is because I had to like weigh it in hindsight. Because I went in super excited because I love the first Kingsman movie. I thought Golden Circle, although wasn't as good, was still a fairly good movie. Um, so I had these super high expectations for The King's Man, the prequel to those movies. So I had to kind of, after the fact, weigh that into it, like my expectations versus what I got, because what I got was a muddled mess that made it seem like Matthew Vaughn didn't know what he wanted to do with this film. Um, it didn't really feel that Kingsman-y. There was like 1 or 2 parts where it might have, and the ending probably did, but by then I was so just not giving a damn about this movie that it didn't matter. It didn't matter by that point. It tries to do the secretive villain, which looking at this poster and every other poster I saw for this movie, well, even just looking for one to put here for this list, all of them show Rasputin. Because Rasputin seems like he was supposed to be the main villain, and then he's not. He's not. He is dealt with in the first 45 minutes of this 2 hour plus movie. Again, Ray Fiennes does a fine job, but it's just not an interesting performance. Yeah, it takes too long because, like, if you're a fan of the Kingsman, you know that story Colin Farrell tells to Taron Egerton as they're going down. He tells him that after the First War, after World War One, all these rich English men were left without heirs, so they took their money and formed the Kingsmen. So now you have one of those rich Englishmen who has an heir, and you're just sitting there because you know this story because you were told it in the first movie. So you're sitting there for like an hour and a half of this movie just waiting for the kid to die. Like I was waiting for his kid to die because you knew it was gonna happen. Either it was gonna happen somewhere like, and because this is the Kingsman, the establishing of the Kingsman, I expected him to die early in the film. And as it kept going on, I'm like, is that how it's gonna end? It's gonna end with that? And then they do it in like the fucking middle, just a little over the middle of the movie, and it's like weird. It's a weird scene because even I went with a friend, and as we were driving back, they said, "Oh, it was a flashback to him dying," and I'm like, "Was it?" And then like I'm trying to connect in my head the before and after of it because there's a letter Ray Fiennes gets from his son and he's reading it and then it goes to him writing the letter and then it just follows him and then it cuts back to Ray Fiennes and he's got a letter but I'm assuming it's the letter that says your son is dead, but I'm trying to remember, is he wearing the same clothes? Was this a flashback? I know he went into it holding a letter, he comes out of it holding a letter. It could be a flashback. I don't know because this movie is so unfollowable that it's hard to tell and like nothing really pays off, and it got to the point where we were able to call things that were going to happen. I'm not even sure if it was like we wanted them to happen. It was the silliest things we could think to happen, and me and the person I was with just said it to each other in a whisper, and then it happened. Like we said it as a joke, like there are goats on the top of a mountain and Colin Farrell is on the mountain, and I just look over and go, oh, one of those goats is gonna headbutt him and he's gonna slip. I'm like, it's not gonna happen. I'm not expecting it to happen. Then 5 minutes later, a goat headbutts him, and he almost falls off the mountain. So it's just one of those things. It's a very telegraphed movie, and it's not as good as the first one. It's not as good as the second one. This was a poor effort in this franchise that I really like. I like these movies, the first two movies, anyways, and I had hopes for this one, and it just didn't meet those expectations. So we're at the halfway point of this list. So that brings us to number 5, and that is Reminiscence. Here's another movie I was really excited for when I watched it off of HBO Max, because I didn't get a chance to get to it when it was in theaters, and it was like one of the last days it was on HBO Max before it went off, and I'm sure it's back there now that it's come out on Blu-ray. I was super excited for it, and I really kind of hated this movie because I'm a Hugh Jackman fan. The dude who wrote Westworld, the TV show, did this, and I'm a fan of that. The movie, first off, water is the oceans are taking over the dry land, so everything's has like standing water, or you have to like dock at a building that happened to be built high enough that it's above the water line, and I don't think any of this is necessary. Like it's a futuristic movie. It's go back to my Adventures of Pluto Nash review. It's a lot like that. Like it's unnecessary. It's unnecessary texture that is never earned for this movie. Like I never needed any of this to get this movie and really enjoy this movie. I just got this movie, and I got Hugh Jackman trying to falls in love with a girl after he meets her because he can go into people's memories so they can find lost things or remember things that they didn't know, or go into a convict's memory and get information to help catch the bad guy. And he starts like helping her and he falls in love with her, and then she goes missing, so he tries to help and find her, and along the way he finds out that she was using him for information because the person who lives a land baron, because that's what they call him, because of course it's a sci-fi movie, so you have to use a really typical and old school term to mean the new school term, but a land baron is someone who actually has land. They have dry land, has a kid, but they were supposed to kill the kid, but they didn't kill the kid. They killed the mother, but not the kid. And yeah, it's a bad movie. And it makes little sense. And in the end, it has no decent payoff to it. I was very disappointed watching this movie because it had a lot of stuff in it, and I liked the look of it. And again, it never earned that look. Like, why? Why does it have to look like this? It doesn't make it because of the plot involves we're going into memories to get information. You need it because that'd be futuristic technology. I get that, but I felt like the world covered in water. It's unnecessary. It's unearned, and it just brought this movie down for me. All right, number 4 of the worst movies I saw this year, Mortal Kombat! Dun, 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 dun. I still hate this movie. Again, HBO Max. I need to stop watching movies off of HBO Max because In the Heights, No Sudden Move, Reminiscent. I'm pretty sure there's something else that I've already said is in the bottom, is in this list that I watched off of HBO Max. Um, so yeah, I watched this one off of HBO Max on April 24th. I think it was right after it came out, very shortly after it dropped on HBO Max. Me and my roommate at the time watched, and this movie was awful. To start with, the main character is not a Mortal Kombat character. He's creation of this movie, but he's not necessary. Like, they could have told that this story with an actual Mortal Kombat character, say Johnny Cage, Cabal. There's a couple other ones who are just normal guys who are fighting in Mortal Kombat, and they could have linked them to Scorpion if they really wanted to. If they wanted to tell that story, like every poster, it looks like it's supposed to be the Battle of Scorpion and Sub-Zero. The trailer sold it as that, and it wasn't. It wasn't. It was a prequel to the actual Mortal Kombat tournament that kind of has Sub-Zero and Mortal and Scorpion worked into it. I liked the set design because the set design looked like levels from the game. That's a positive. I liked the set design. I hated everything else about this movie. The characters, there was one good character, and that was Kano. Kano was cool, but I like that actor who plays Kano. Um, but yeah, the rest of the characters were uninteresting, and I didn't care about them or anything that they did. One of them dies, and I could have cared less. Um, yeah, it just wasn't a good movie. It wasn't worth the time or the effort. And as much as people dig on the not Paul W.S. Anderson, that who no wait no it is Paul W.S. Anderson. I got Paul W.S. Anderson and Paul Thomas Anderson. Oh, screwing up my brain right now. But it's not like the original 90s Mortal Kombat movie, which is bad, but it's fun bad. This one's just bad. Like, it doesn't have any of that fun bad or that, oh, this feels like it might be the story of the game, especially since Mortal Kombat Scorpion Revenge, the animated movie, came out a year before this, and it tells a better version of the story that they should have been telling, which just shows that Warner Brothers is much better at taking these properties and making animated movies than they are at making a live action movie. And maybe they should have went with an animated movie. Might have been better. Number 3, worst movie of the year, Monster Hunter. I saw this one back in January. Haha. It's weird because it actually is on. The poster I use says December, but it actually I check things and it says January. I think it had a small release in December and then a wide release in January. But I'm counting it. I don't care. I hated this movie, and I just Mila Jovovich and Paul W.S. Anderson. I like their movies. I really do. I like the Resident Evil movies. I like Paul W.S. Anderson's other movies. I hated this. This was a piece of shit. Not that I have real vivid hatred. I just know when I was looking at the list of movies to choose to be in this thing, I went, I fucking hate this movie. I just don't think it was an interesting story. I think the ending sucked ass. Going back to that, the first 10 movies I watched in theaters of 2021, I did back a couple of months ago. Definitely 100% has a much better review because it was much fresher in my head. I just know this movie sucks and don't watch it. It's a bad movie. Number 2, The Eternals. I did not like this movie. I felt it had too many characters. It was introducing too many characters. I felt like it had no reason to be part of the Marvel Cinematic Universe at this moment because it had no reason to take place on Earth. It had none whatsoever. The Eternals don't interact with anyone from the MCU to make it worthwhile for them to be on Earth. And they all end up off planet by the end of the movie. There was no reason, if they're going to end up off world anyways, just to have them on another world that has civilization similar to Earth. There was no reason to bring Earth into this. It just was unnecessary. Also, again, you're introducing 10 new characters to us. and they're not really given a lot of information. You have to learn them over the course of the movie, and I am pretty sure to this day there are some of those characters I have no idea what their names were. Couldn't tell you. You asked me the Guardians of the Galaxy after I saw that movie, I can tell you who the Guardians of the Galaxy are. I can tell you who the X-Men are in the first X-Men movie and a lot of the subsequent X-Men movies. I can tell you who they used. I have no idea who these Eternals are. Nor do I care. All I saw was one of them kind of looked like had the powers of Superman. Another one had super speed, so I thought it was the Flash. I was looking more at a Justice League than a different superhero entity. And yeah, I was unimpressed with the Eternals as a Marvel offering. As much as I don't like Iron Man 3, Iron Man 3 has some redeeming factors that I do kind of like, especially in hindsight. This is probably my least favorite Marvel movie I've seen because I was super disappointed with it. Super disappointed. And the number one worst movie I saw of 2021 goes to The Little Things. I hate this movie, and I saw it in theaters. It was on HBO Max. I didn't watch enough of HBO Max. No, I wanted to go to the theaters to watch this piece of garbage. It starts off, you see a woman being stalked by a dude in a green car. That's important. No, wait, was it a green car or was it a green car they see later? It's either is a green car and they don't see a green car later, or it's not a green car and they see a green car later. Whatever, it is not the same car that's stalking people. You know what? It wasn't a green car. It was a dark car. It was like a brown or a dark colored car. And she escapes. Dun dun. We then find out other people have died, and it's all from this murderer. And Denzel Washington, who's a small town cop, goes back to the big city where he used to work to help out Rami Malek solve the case because it's very reminiscent to a case that happened years ago that Denzel Washington was working where he accidentally shot someone and they just rolled it into the victims of that case, and they find a green car, a bright green car that would definitely is not the same car we saw in the opening parts of this movie. And it's Jared Leto's car. So then they're hell bent that Jared Leto's the killer, but it definitely can't be Jared Leto because it's definitely not Jared Leto. And I thought this was a like crime drama, and it turned out just to be bullshit. I hated this movie. I really did. I was sitting there in the theaters just going, why? Why is this? Why is this movie? Why? Why are they not like? I was expecting, they'd eventually catch the killer, figure out who the killer is, and they don't. You don't get anything on who the killer actually is. You never get to be told that because at the end of the movie, you see that Denzel Washington makes Rami Malek feel better by sending him something that belonged to one of the victims to make him believe that it was Jared Leto, except you find out that it was just something he bought and sent to him to ease his soul. So it was definitely not Jared Leto, and you definitely don't get closure on this movie. And that's probably not what it was going for. It probably wasn't meant to be by the numbers crime drama. It was probably meant to be something more looking at how people get accused of crimes that they didn't commit and how much the cops invest in that person being the criminal. I'm sure that is what they were going for. The problem with it is the advertising to this movie did not make it seem like that. So that did not work when I went to go see it in theaters. So yeah, The Little Things is my least favorite movie of 2021. Stop in next week because my top 10 favorite movies of 2021 are coming at you. So it's going to be less of me bitching and moaning and more of me saying, this is a really good movie. Here's why, maybe. We'll see. We'll see how my memory does for those movies versus the bad movies. Anyways, this has been Rank the Movies. I am Martin Prevost. Don't forget to like, comment, and subscribe to make sure you don't miss any content. And I will see you next week. Have a good one.